Hello, my name is Tom Wilson. I'm the priest over at All Saints Episcopal Church in Southern Shores, North Carolina. And this is the sermon that's going to be for the 13th of July, 2014. It's based on the lessons for Genesis 25, 19 through 34, Psalm 119, verses 105 to 112, Romans 8, 1 through 11, and Matthew 13, 1 through 9, and 18 through 23. And I call it Despising Birthrights. This is last week I finished a trilogy, a three-part series of reflections on Abraham, and this week I'm beginning a tetralogy, a four-part series on Jacob. You know, one of the problems with being a parish priest is that I always have next Sunday's service hanging over me. And this Sunday's story from Genesis has to do with the birthright, that which we inherit from our parents. I did a reflection for Martha Middleton's celebration of life last week that grew out of a discussion I had with a family about what was their birthright from Martha. And what we tend to think about is the stuff we inherit. For instance, I have a couple of silver pitchers and a silver tea set and a couple pictures from my mother. And when my father died, I got some veterans and Social Security help in paying for college, some books, and I got one of my father's old suits retailored, which I wore to my graduation, my wedding, my work, the baptism of my daughter, and grad school, until it just wore out. But I remember whenever I saw the books or wore that suit, I was reminded that I received so much from my father, and these were outward and visible signs that my father was living within me, urging me to live into who I was created to be. When I talked about Martha at her service, she inherited from her parents the value of hard work and caring for others. In a way, she lived in who she was named for, Martha, the hard-working friend of Jesus who took care of others. The name Martha itself comes from the Greek for the mistress of the household, the one who's in charge of taking care. And Martha Middleton lived into her name and passed on her birthright to her children. In the same way, the birthright in Genesis is more than just stuff. It's a blessing which carries with it the power of cementing the personality of the receiver so that the person might become who he or she was created by God to be. In this story from Genesis, we have the birth stories of Esau and Jacob, in which the first blessing is the given name. The name carries power to shape the individual as they live into their name, and the blessing, birthright, is believed to confirm that fullness of personality. Jacob's name has its root in a saying like, "May God protect," and it was appropriate since he was the younger brother of the hairy and ruddy Esau, who was bigger and stronger than Jacob, and God knows Jacob was going to need all the help he could get. Later in this part of the story, there will be a connection of the name Esau to the color red. Just stop for a minute and think about what kind of person you would think of if I gave you three adjectives, big, hairy, and red. The color red resonates with the color of danger, vital, alive, aggressive, and forceful. So Jacob has to be the one who is able to think on his feet and to rely on God to get him out of trouble. Later in the story, he will have his name changed to Israel, which means the one who struggles, wrestles with God. But that's in part 4. We get our names from our parents, and our parents help us to live into our names as we go through the journey of life. Let me give you an example of a modern myth to demonstrate how we live into our names. As you may be aware, this is the 75th anniversary of the 1939 movie Wizard of Oz. The name of the main character, Dorothy, comes from the Greek Dorothea. Doron equals gift, is Greek for gift, and theos is God, Dor Theo. She is a gift from God. So the name tells us. In the story, Dorothy's parents have died, and she's not inherited anything except the name. So she must make a journey to live into her name. And in order to live into her name, she's going to have to develop her brain. She's going to have to learn how to love. And she's going to learn to have to develop courage. And in the dream she has, she meets those three attributes in the scarecrow who wants a brain, the tin man who wants a heart, and the lion who wants courage. The dream is the incorporation of these three elements into herself, and the defeat of her shadow side of selfishness, the wicked witch, which she has inside her. The movie's core is a hero's journey, a mythic archetype, where the journey is how the hero is changed and comes to a new understanding of how he or she belongs in the world, how to live into who that person was created to be. The Jacob Saga, the mythic structure of a public dream for the descendants of Jacob, Israel, is a hero's journey. It's a hero's journey archetype where Jacob comes into who he was created to be. Now, Esau and Jacob were twins, so they were created to be connected and to relate to each other. And as they were conceived in love and formed in love and united in love, they are to live in love. However, they end up estranged from each other, and thereby from themselves, from the core of who they are. The journey they are to take in these next 4 weeks of reflections is a journey of reconciliation to themselves and to God. In this part of the story, Esau does not want to live into who he was created to be, and he squanders his birthright. Later, Jacob will outright steal it from him. The birthright is invaluable, but Esau throws it away for a bowl of beans to feed a temporary hunger. And as the story says, thus Esau despised his birthright. We will see that theme of despising birthright in the parable that Jesus tells in the passage from Matthew in the gospel lesson about the sower and the seed. As you probably remember, a parable is a story that has a single point, usually as an unexpected surprise at the end, while an allegory is a teaching tool in which all the details of the story stand for something, and the point of the story is in the collection of the different parts. Jesus told parables to show us what life in the kingdom of the heavens was like in this world, as we are given opportunities to live into who we are created to be. The writer of Matthew wants to teach later generations, so the editor turns the parable into an extended allegory, which domesticates it into a teaching about other people and an explanation as to why the church is unable to grow. But I believe that it is a story, a dream, a myth, a hero's journey, told in miniature about the seed, which is you and me, and how we grow into who God created us to be. You and I can fill in the blanks about the times we decided to be stony or dried up or encumbered with weeds in our lives, or that we just ignored. All are ways that we despise the birthright of who we really are. The punchline in the parable and in this saga, in this journey, hero's journey, is how the seed, when it decides to live into being the creation of God, grows into 30 or 60 to 100 times more of the person that God created the seed to be. We see this theme of despising birthright in Paul's letter to the Romans, as he tells them that when we enter into the new birth of Christ's Spirit and then ignore the fact that we were created to be full Spirit-filled human beings, we are only focusing only on a sleepwalking, self-centered existence, what Paul calls the flesh. We're not living fully into the new resurrected life in this life and the next. So, homework for this coming week is to reflect on what is your birthright. What did you inherit from your parents? What did you inherit from your God? How are you honoring that birthright? How are you despising it? Where are you on your hero's journey of living into your true being? We'll talk later. Thank you.